So starting with our today's session, we have our first speaker, Dr. Srinivas Janaswamy from Department of Dairy and Food Sciences, South Dakota State University, Brookings, USA. Dr. Srinivas Janaswamy, is known as Dr. Jana, is a faculty member at the Department of Dairy and Food Science, South Dakota State University, Brookings. Dr. Jana has more than 25 years of research experience that constitutes an interdisciplinary at the frontier between carbohydrate chemistry, physics, material sciences, and life sciences. He leads a research program on functional carbohydrates with an emphasis on the design and development of novel carriers of bioactive compounds. His research also focuses on agricultural residues towards packaging and biodegradable materials and water purification. Over the years, Dr. Jana's research gained high-profile media exposure through journal editors and scientific writers. Press reports such as embedding molecules in starch may help prevent type 2 diabetes, smuggling medicines in food, and new research may be a step forward for medicinal foods. Cycling fertilizer. South Dakota State researchers test way to reduce and reuse runoff from farms. Researchers explore complex carbohydrates to protect water quality. Scientists attempt to fight vitamin A deficiency in Africa by developing sweet potato fortified bread. New material fit for food packaging, and SDSU scientists extract cellulose from corn stalks, to name a few. These appeared in news media along with worldwide coverage. He published around 75 international peer-reviewed journal articles, so far edited one book on natural polymers for drug delivery, and edited one special journal issue on green physical processing technologies for the improvement of food quality. Dr. Jana has international research collaborations with groups in China, Kenya, and India, and visiting professor appointments at State Key Laboratory of Food Science and Technology at Jiangnan University, China, School of Food Science and Technology, Dalian Polytechnic University, Dalian, China, and Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore, India. He received the 2019 Global Engagement Research Award for SDSU. So today he will be sharing his thoughts on cellulose-based functional materials from agriculture biomass. Sir, I welcome you to this session. Kindly share your expertise in this area.
Thanks, Dr. Kaur, for this nice introduction. Good evening, all. Are you able to see my screen that has?
Yes, Dr. Srinivas.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. If you don't mind, how much time I have?
45 minutes, sir.
35?
45 minutes.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's good. So, I'll, as Dr. Kaur said, I'll be talking about how cellulose, especially the lignocellulose from agriculture biomass, could be used to replace, at least to address some of the plastic concerns. That's what my group has been focusing for more than, I could say, 3 years. Yeah. As we all know, the plastics, they are highly desirable materials. It's difficult to imagine life without plastics. If you want to, good old days, our grandfathers, and then they have used something what you call as biodegradable materials even for writing. For example, nowadays we are dependent on these plastic pens. So this is, once we use them, this is a lifetime, very limited lifetime. So we after a while we have to dispose it off. And same way, without cell phone, mobile phone, we cannot imagine our life. So all these things, and like this, every sector of our life, we see all these things are made up of plastics. I have here highlighted. And they were as early as the 1915s, I think they were introduced to mankind. And since then, they have become a part of our life. And their applications, if you see, in every sector, construction, food, water, for example, medicine, transportation, electronics, every sector they have nicely spread. And then why? Because they're strong, flexible, and low weight. And then whatever the material, whatever the shape you want to create, they could be nicely created using this. And if you look at this, I'm comparing some of the production in every sector. As well, for example, I think 400 million tons of the plastics have been produced during 2015. Among that, 36 goes for the packaging. So here predominantly I'm highlighting only the food packaging materials, but even other non-food sectors also this contributes significantly, especially during this pandemic period. Now all the e-trade has become a big thing, and everything packaging that you want to do, the plastic plays a major role. And later, the second biggest contributor is the building and construction. That's 16% where we use this all these plastic pipes, and then also the something called the sealants. For example, we use resins a lot. So I think every part of the country, every part of the world, we use this, especially in this country here, when we want to seal our basements. Predominantly, we use this so that there will not be any cold air coming into a place. And same in the case of textiles, we use around 14%, and then household products around 10%, transportation, so electronics, whatnot, every sector significantly. And then these are all synthetic materials, as you are all aware, and predominantly they could be categorized as thermoplastics and thermosites. I think many of you are aware of it. I will not spend much time, but some of the examples I could think of are this polypropylene, polystyrene, and low density polyethylene, high density polyethylene, and all these thermoplastics. I mean, we could apply heat and then remold the shape and then create a new material. On the other hand, these thermosites, during the heating process, they undergo a non-reversible chemical reaction, and consequently they could not be remodeled or reused. Okay, so these predominantly, so all these epoxies, they fall into this category. So depending on the application, we use one of these. And as I mentioned in the first slide, a wide variety of applications you could think of: the bags, trays, containers, food packaging, films, plates, cups, bottles, whatnot, everything. And one more example that I want to draw your attention. For example, good old days, we used to use glass and metal bottles for all these edible oils, milks, and then paper and glass for all this as packaging materials. For example, the jute sack bags, and predominantly that all these grains, if you want to store, for example, rice, if you want to store, we use these jute bags, like cements, fertilizers also. And even toothpaste, I don't know whether anyone of you remember, I have seen in my grandfather's house, the metal tubes have been used for the toothpaste. Maybe it is an antique now. But this generation might not even know that, to be frank with you. All these things have slowly been replaced with the plastic materials. All this, nowadays we get milk in the plastic pouches. And same way, all these sack bags we use for the cement, fertilizers, even grain, everything we use this. And then this plastic laminate tubes are being used for the toothpaste. As I said earlier, these are durable, flexible, and lightweight. So transportation costs could be reduced significantly, and consequently they have entered into every sector. So why should we worry about them? Problem is their non-biodegradability. Reason is as humans, we could live only for 100 years. It's very difficult to predict. Sometimes the lifespan is also less than 100 years. But these plastics, their lifetime, they're eternal, I could say that, in the sense, anywhere 900 to 1,000 years, they're happily, they'll stay on this planet. So if I use this water bottle today, and if I don't recycle it and just let it dump it in my backyard, we could it could stay on this planet up to 3021,000 more years. So you can have your signature file, but during the process, it creates a lot of catastrophic things, as we all know, which I will tell you in a minute. So the plastic waste, that is, we call it as waste mainly because, as I said, it is not biodegradable. It stays forever. See, for example, 2015, we have generated throughout the world, by the way, 300 million, more than 300 millions of plastic waste. It's only 6 years ago back. And then now it is increasing significantly. So it is more than 500,000 tons by now. It stays there. So we have to find out a ways to eliminated from this planet. And then their stay in the environment, it pollutes the water, and then that further pollutes the it gives problem to the marine microbiota, and then all the issues, and then the soil ecosystem it impacts significantly. And then also if you just don't treat it properly and then we just incinerate, it is not that easy, but if you start doing it, that contributes to air pollution and then also leads to global warming. All these things in a way are connected to impact our food. They will also impact the food chain. And ultimately when humans consume, for example, many of us are dependent on fish. I mean, that is one of our what call it, protein source. So all these microparticles and nanoparticles, once they get entangled in the food system, in the fish system, and then that could enter to our human systems, and then we cannot digest, and then just like this, we cannot secrete them as well. If they get entangled in our system, if they get stashed in our system, that could be complicated. Though it has not been proved as of today, but I think some research is going on. And as even in also, they could even enter we all know that they could even enter the what you call as plant systems, and then the fruits ultimately, and then that also could be a catastrophic thing. So as you see, all these things are littering around. So all these plastics, some of them is being recycled, some of them are incinerated, the landfill, they're just like they're dumped, and then they're littering around. They're happily floating around because they don't have a weight. They're lightweight material, they can happily float around. Ultimately, where do they go and end up? In the soil or the ocean. Ocean has become like a repository for all these materials. So it's like we deposit our money in the bank so that we could reuse it for a later point of time. And same way, the plastic now it is being entering the ocean, and during that process, what call as trillions and trillions of particles are being microparticles and nanoparticles are being created, and then that is impacting the soil. All these marine systems. And also, if you see among all this plastic waste that you and I generate, only 9%, believe me, only 9% is being recycled. Whenever we see recycled products, recycled plastic products, not all the things. At the rate of what you call as waste that we are generating, and rate of reusing is not on parallel. And then we are only 12% is being reincinerated, and remaining 79%, close to 80% is nicely stashed in the environment, either in the soil or in the oceans. So that is there, which is bad. So there is a lot of environmental impact, and mainly because, as I said, these are lightweight, so they could happily float around. So you think that, oh, I'm not doing anything. I just threw this Walmart bag in my backyard. But necessarily, after a while, it nicely flies away, and then it ends up somewhere in the soil or in the ocean. And then some of these bags, as I mentioned here, they're not biodegradable, so they stay for thousands and thousands of years. And then during the process, they contaminate all these things. Now, one more interesting thing here is we all depend on the plastic bags. You know how much we produce? It looks like we produce around 1 to 5 trillion plastic bags throughout the year. That translates to 1 crore, 10 million plastic bags per minute. It's hard to imagine, but that's the reality. 1 crore plastic bags. If you tie them around, it looks nicely. We could wrap our Earth several times. In a way, we are suffocating the entire planet. So that is the hard fact, because without realizing, I'm using only 1 plastic bag a day, but imagine we have around 7+ billion people, and each one of us 1 plastic bag a day, how much it is being generated. So these are some of the problems I'm helping to highlight. So as I said, our oceans have become, there are big islands in our oceans that extend miles and miles apart, and the plastic islands are there. And then, for example, this poor bird is going to die because it cannot take out this plastic bag around it. And then some of this turtle, for example, it might ingest this, it cannot survive later, mainly because it cannot digest this. So, these are some of the issues. So in a way, we are living in a plastic planet, we could say that. So And some of the concerns, for example, the water bottle. And you see the water bottle that I'm drinking, a couple of years back, it was shown that irrespective of the brand throughout the world, every bottle contains micro particles that are not seen through naked eyes, and then that are ending up in our system. Okay, so in a way we are having the plastic soup. The water bottles are the food that the type of food that we consume, and then but there are so many people are trying to say no to this, which is really good. But one more interesting thing we have to understand about this plastic waste is, I said 9% is being recycled, right? That among that 9%, so far till 2018, around 45% of this plastic waste is being imported by China to come up with new plastic products. There are other countries as well. That China was the biggest importer. However, in 2018, January onwards, they banned any import of any of the plastic or any other type of food, any packaging material that could be imported to this country. And consequently, now every country is trying to come up with a new ways of finding a new partner who could import this plastic waste. So this is where we need to come up with novel ways of addressing this plastic waste. And many countries have started banning the plastic usage. I mean, there is a minimum thickness. Some restrictions have been applied, and they're trying to clean the beaches also, because whether we realize it or not, some of the beaches when we go, we could see the contamination that you and I have created, we all have created. When I'm saying you and I, don't take it personalized, because we all have created this, because all the seashores are dumped and we could see all these plastic bags. So people started cleaning the systems, but what will happen to the microparticles and nanoparticles that are there already in the water? So that is a big thing to clean as well. And for example, here Kenya announces the ban on plastic bags, and then even India has done. Every country now, in a way, has banned certain plastic items. But more interestingly, now consumers, I mean, that many of our, especially this generation, they learned a lesson. They said we wanted to reduce the use of plastics. So they're trying to come up with the plastic alternatives. So they're dictating the food companies what they really want. For example, this McDonald's and then this Starbucks, they're nicely trying to switch over to the plastic straws. All the plastic straws they want to replace with the biodegradable plastic, the straws, all these cups. And same way, the Coca-Cola recently announced that they are going to use all these non-plastic bottles. Like that, every company is slowly moving away from the plastics. And same way, the investors, maybe around $1 trillion investors, they demand Nestle, Pepsi, and other companies to cut down the plastic waste by few years. It is not possible to cut down the plastics just like that. It's not like turning on the switch and turning off. So it has to be done judiciously. So it takes time. Okay. So, but people have realized, and then we are moving towards that. So, what is it you and I can do? So, the best thing is work on the biomass, agricultural biomass, because as of now, we have varieties of sources we can think of generating the biomass. And on a global scale, every year, 140 million metric tons of biomass is being generated only from the agriculture alone. But otherwise, other contributors are, for example, we have agriculture, forestry, manufacturing, animal husbandry, fishery production, food processing, and then plant and animal waste. Like that, the list goes on, and that could be trillion tons or more. But from agriculture alone, if you see, we are producing around 140, because all this straw, for example, now India is a big producer of rice. So what happens to the rice straw? We use them as a cattle field, and remaining, I think majority of them is being used as a cattle field. Very little is left in the field. On the other hand, in the US here, what we do is on the corn, wheat, soy. After we harvest, at least majority of them is being left in the soil, mainly to improve the soil quality, which is really good. And that could be an organic compost. But also, it is also being used as a cattle field. 1/3 of that is being used as cattle feed. And then in the US, I mean, I don't have statistics in other countries, but in our country, we produced around 205 million dry tons of primary crop residues. For example, corn. So for this is oat, this is soy, wheat, this is corn. I also included rice so that you'll have some idea. So we predominantly use these biomasses, and then we're producing around 205 million tons, and then that is being projected to increase to 300 million dry tons by 2030. I mean, just a few more years, 9 more years. Mainly because we know, because now what you call as the yield has increased significantly, though the land, arable land has decreased. But this, because we had to increase this crop yield mainly because the population is growing, and in order to feed them all, the grain sizes, the cereal production, everything has to increase, and then obviously that also increases the crop residue. And then what will happen with the crop residue? Is there a way we could make use of it? And that's what I'm focusing on. Okay. And for example, if you look at the corn stover alone, corn stover that is predominantly stacks, leaves, tassel, husk, and cob, all of them, they are good source of this biomaterials like cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. For example, corn stover, it has 45% of cellulose, 30% of hemicellulose, and 20% of lignin. And in these three biomasses, predominantly the cellulose is of my interest, mainly because that could give a strong because it has its molecular structure, which I'll show you in a minute, is very strong. So if you could try to somehow use them in making these plastic replacing materials, that would be highly useful. Okay, and then not only I just used corn stover, but even every biomass has a good amount of cellulose. If, for example, rice husk, if you look at it, is around 30 to 40% of cellulose. So that will be. Another thing I could think of is the sweet potatoes. By the way, I do a lot of research on sweet potato, but I was in African countries, they do a lot of research on sweet potato because this especially orange plus sweet potato is really useful for addressing the vitamin A issues. So once they harvest, think of these vines, all these things that are left in the field are very few amount is used for as a cattle field. So this is also a good source of biomass. And there's one more I could think of is cassava. Even in India, we have a lot of cassava. Is a good product. So this also every year we harvest, and the cassava peels as a good source of cellulose. And then other things, the potato peels, we could think of sugarcane and the banana. And can you imagine the banana? How many, every one of us eat bananas, but banana peel we cannot consume, we throw them. And banana peel also has a good amount of cellulose. We're also working on banana peels. And then this is the rice, this is rice straw. So all these are good sources of cellulose. We could use them for creating the plastic replacing products. And I mean, people have used cotton wool for a long time. Hemp, flax, and jute is also other source of. Like this, the list goes on, by the way. Okay, but let us get into the details. What is the cellulose? If you look at the chemical structure, it is a beta-D-glucose pyranose. And this sugar, it nicely extends. And these are the hydroxyl groups, O6, this is O6, O3, and O2. And this is in beta configuration, and in the case of starch, this goes to alpha, and then you and I could digest. And once it is in the beta configuration, we cannot digest this; it becomes insoluble. That could work as a fiber for us, but it doesn't mean that we could eat a lot of food and deduct out of the cellulose, and then that could improve health. It's not possible because we cannot get any. We cannot hydrolyze them. By the way, we don't have any enzyme that could hydrolyze cellulases, whereas animals have the cellulase; they could nicely get energy out of it. So this has to be in the alpha form. So in order for us to get, but this is a mother nature invention. I always wonder because same glucose sugar, when it is beta form, it forms a structural component and it produces gives the strength to the plant. And on the other hand, when it converts to beta alpha, that becomes the energy storage. That's very interesting thing. So now if you look at the molecular structure of this cellulose, it's a nice a twofold structure. All the sugars are nicely stacked, and then this O3 and O5, there is a hydrogen bond, and consequently what really happens is it forms like a sheet-like structure. And these sheets are nicely stacked and also stacked, and then there is a lot of inter-sheet hydrogen bonds apart from intra-sheet hydrogen bonds. And then and also if you look at the separation between the layers, it's close to 3.9 angstroms. So even one water molecule cannot penetrate, because water molecule cannot penetrate, and then hydrogen bond between these hydroxyl groups, it needs minimum around 5 to 6 angstrom space, because it has to hydrogen bond, right? So now it is 3.9 angstroms, and consequently water cannot even penetrate because of this tight structure. And then all it leads to is a fibril formation, and it provides one insoluble structure. And so thus this tight and then strong network structure stabilized through intra and then intersheet hydrogen bonds bestows water insolubility for this material. That's very interesting thing. So now, if you could somehow make it soluble, then what are the product we are interested, we can create, hopefully the plastic replacing particles. Okay, but the water solubility is not that easy, because of this strong only hydrogen bonds, they're not covalent links. Okay, because if something has to be strong, if you have covalent bonds, I mean that would be easy. But on the other hand, here only hydrogen bonds, so called, if you look at the calorie contribution, it could be around 5 kilocalories per mole, I believe. So it's very weak, but still the number of hydrogen bonds are so high, and consequently it is a very tight structure. So Mother Nature does all this trick. She doesn't have to create any covalent bonds, but nicely create these hydrogen bonds, and then that gives a nice structure. So over the years, and cellulose people have been working more than 100 years, and then wide varieties of chemicals have been being used. Lithium chloride, lithium, and also phosphoric acid, ammonia salt have used, and then they even solubilize. Our forefathers have done this very during 1850s, 70s, whatever you think of, because if you could trace back the history, you can go back. But however, there is a problem, because there are toxics, and then also the chemicals are environmentally threat, and then also sometimes we have to use high temperatures and then high power consumption, and consequently the expense is very high. The harm that we are creating to the environment is very high. And then once all these chemicals are dumped in the water, whether it's stream water or the ocean, we are impacting all the microorganisms or any other living organism present in them. And similarly, we could also use ionic liquids, a wide variety of ionic, cationic, anionic liquids. We can think of all of them are also useful to solve this, to solubilize the cellulose. People have used it, but only problem is the cost associated is very high, and also the viscosity and sensitivity to moisture and all this is a challenging thing. And also people also use sodium hydroxide, urea, thiourea, which is really good. There's tons and tons of literature on this. Once again, the problem is the toxicity, and we cannot recover some of the solvents that very easy, and also large scale effect. In industrial scale application also could be challenging. And so I'm giving only problems. So far I said the cellulose could be a good material to address the plastic issues, but I'm telling, oh my goodness, people are using all these protocols, but they're all problematic. But there is one more thing that we sincerely believe, these inorganic solvents could be useful, mainly because what we found was we use zinc chloride to solubilize. We used microcrystalline cellulose Evercell as a model system. And then we nicely demonstrated that it could solubilize, which I'll show you in a minute. And then once you solubilize the chains, we could nicely cross-link them with calcium ions, and then further make the product that we are into. At this moment, we made only the films, but we are heading into other products as well. The interesting thing about our technology is it is recyclable. Because most importantly, though we are using zinc chloride, zinc by itself is toxic, but ultimately, when we at the end, we could retrieve it back. Okay. And it is, so that's in that sense, it is recyclable, non-toxic, environmental friendly, and inexpensive, and more importantly, green process. Because the solvents, we also use ethanol during this process, but all the ethanol could be recovered back at least we were able to recover at least 95% of the ethanol, 90 to 90% of ethanol during our. So this is, and once you solubilize it, I can show you that they become gels. For example, many of you are aware of the rheology. So this could be the here in this diagram I'm showing, the red one is the elastic modulus, and then this is the loss modulus. So whenever the elastic loss modulus is greater than elastic modulus, that is a solution state. That's what is happening when you solubilize the cellulose in the zinc chloride. But on the other hand, when you add calcium ions, so now there is a reversing here. We could clearly see it forms gels, but it is not strong. It is a soft gel. That's what I'm really looking forward, mainly because ultimately when you want to prepare a product based on this mixture, we need to have a soft gel. So this really helps me to accomplish my goals. And more importantly, we made films, by the way, and based on this and the calcium ions, you could really see these nanofiber problems. There are around 150 to 150 nanometers, the size of those films. The fibers in the films, okay, and consequently the films will have high tensile strength. We could clearly see in the films that we made the time we could even lift more than 150 pounds weight. And also more interestingly, because of this nano fibril formation, they are also transparent. That's really interesting. So definitely this has all desirable qualities of a plastic film. And that could be explained why it is happening, mainly because what is happening is when the zinc, this is the cellulose molecular structure, strong O2, O3 hydrogen, O3, O5 hydrogen bonds. But what really happens is when we zinc chloride, zinc could nicely go and then break this O3, O5 hydrogen bond, okay? And then, so it pays with this, and then once this is O3, O5 hydrogen bond is broken, and the chain gets flexibility. And then because now it was tightly bound, all of a sudden somebody comes and then snaps up the hydrogen bond and then does everything, all the system disturbs, and then everything gets coils around, and thus the water is nicely could penetrate, and then everything gets solubilized. And same thing, instead of mother nature, the bacteria does, by the way. Xanthan is also a cellulose like polysaccharide. So bacteria nicely, cleverly, what it does is for every alternate units at the O3, it substitutes a bulky trisaccharide unit. And consequently, xanthan, though it has a cellulose backbone structure, because of the O3 O5 bond breakage, it forms a five-fold helical structure and is highly viscous soluble system. Okay, so same thing we are trying to do here. Here we are trying to break this O3 O5 hydrogen bond, and then this is what happened. And further, once we after solubilizing, so now every system is in the solution state. Now we want to bring the chains back. So we are trying to use calcium ions to further bring the chains together. So this and during that process, all these nanofibrils will form, and ultimately, when you create a film that has high tensile strength, but we strongly believe same methodology could be used for other to create other products as well. For example, dinner plates or anything else, which we are doing now. Now, same methodology we use now to extract cellulose from biomass. So here I'm trying to show the results based on the corn stalk. So we extracted corn stalk, but our extraction procedure in such a way that we could not remove all the lignin, though we lost predominantly significant amount of hemicellulose and cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin, but still there is some residue, so that has resulted in the color. But what we did was we tried to solubilize them in different zinc chloride concentration, 70 and 72. So we could see the nicely films. They're transparent, but otherwise they're really strong. But there is some lignin presence is creating applications. So that might be it might limit the applications. But just last week, we came up with a different protocol, which I'm not showing here. We could completely remove all the lignin, and then predominantly we ended up in a pure white cellulosic material from the corn stalk, just by using a different extraction protocol. And hopefully in about a month, we'll have all the films and other characterization, as we call it, transparent white films. And then here, as I said, this is a completely recyclable process because all the ethanol, whatever we have used, 90 to 95% of ethanol has been recovered back, and then this residue that is This is the salt, and then it has lignin. At this moment, now we are separating the salt and then lignin as well, so that we'll have lignin and then salt. So whole process is a green process. Okay. And then if you look at the water vapor permeability, and for here I'm trying to compare the water vapor permeability of this plastic film and also our films that we made in different calcium chloride concentration from the cornstalk. And also we used the Abyssal for comparison. And first, the water vapor permeability of our films is relatively high compared to the poly. So that means this could be soluble in the down the line in the long run. But so now we are trying to use different combinations, different chemistry to try to reduce the overall. So, and as most importantly, as I said, this is being a cellulosic material, we could biodegrade, and then here the loss of biomass, the film weight as a function of time. I'm trying to show you for about within 30 days, all this film it turns to I should not say ashes, but into small pieces, and then I think. 60 to 90 days, everything could disappear. That's what we're hoping. But within 30 days, we see a significant reduction film shape. So depending on the product, and now this here I showed you only one particular calcium concentration, but depending on the amount of cross-linking, so that bestows the strength of the material, and so their rate of biodegradability is different. But I just wanted to show you that although we could nicely make products based on this, and then we could create. So the cellulose could be a good alternative to come up with novel products based on it. I just used only film to show that we could solubilize, we could extract cellulose from cornstalk and then create films. But there could be much more that one can think of doing it. I think I'm almost done. And the future prospects are enormous, because the plastics are, as we all know, they're littering our communities. They're contaminating our oceans, waterways, ecosystem, soil system, everywhere, and then that is leading to a lot of health problems. I could clearly say that slow, silent, omnipresent, and even more toxic than one can imagine. We have realized it, and that's where the cellulose from abundant and often all these agriculture residues, by the way, they're low valued in the sense we try to leave them either field or we also use the cattle feed. By the way, when you look at the cattle, I sincerely believe when you start extracting the cellulose and creating products, that would generate a lot of income to the farmers. For example, I don't know about the Indian prices, but for example, here in US, the 1 ton of cornstalk, it costs around $80 to $85. It is around $83, we could call it as 1 ton of that. As a cattle field, people buy them. Well, let us say one farmer he has 1,000 acres. So that could translate to $83,000. But we want to use a fraction of it for improving the soil quality. So let us say he uses around 30% to improve the soil quality and 30% the cattle feed, and remaining 40%, if we could use this for this research, so that translates to around $28,000 to $30,000 per year extra income. So like this, for every society, one can think of doing this, and every biomass has different prices, by the way. Okay, so whatever there are low value and they are being discarded. So all these things we could use to generate value, and more importantly, we are trying to address one of the problems, man-made problems, effectively. And also, most importantly, all the synthetic materials, as we know, they are dependent on these what do you call as the correct word, non-renewable resources. Okay, so and consequently, we are contaminating the global issues, and then this lot of it's oil, for example, even oil also we are extracting a lot of those things. It's synthetic oil. So all that, if you try to using only the agricultural biomass, it translates. Somebody has calculated. I did not put the reference here, but they said just by using the biomass, it could translate to more 150 million tons of oil equivalent by 2030, which is a really good and effective thing. Okay, so thus this, when you use the cellulose, it contributes to the production of environmental products because it's a biodegradable. Anything, it will not harm the society. And then also the cellulose, it will not be very heavyweight. So it would be a lightweight particles, durable particles, and then ultimately I believe it will be low manufacturing cost, but this needs to be proven, by the way. That is my own thought. And also ecological economic concerns with the petroleum-based products will be reduced significantly because all these plastic problems will be reduced. And then that will also contribute the greenhouse gases and other environmental pollution. Everything will be significantly reduced. That's what I sincerely believe. So, but this lot of research needs to be done. But people are doing life cycle analysis and techno-economic analysis. We are also working on that, and hopefully in about 5 to 6 months, we'll have some good amount of the life cycle analysis of our product, how much it costs compared to plastic films, and then accordingly we'll be able to find it. I don't have those data at this moment, so that's why. So this is my goal, my friends, at this moment. I sincerely believe all this plastic, the films could be created, and then this could be by this. She's my student Aliza, and this is the film that she made, and then ultimately all this materials, food materials, these are all the containers, the packaging material, everything is made up of biodegradable cellulose-like materials, and then that will not harm any environment. So hopefully our synergistic effects, when I'm saying it is not mine, by the way, I'm only an iota in this planet. There are so many groups are working on this cellulose material. Even at MIT, I know we have a big group working on this cellulose materials. So our synergistic effects will eventually help the current and future generations to eradicate the sobering consequences of plastics. That's my wishful thinking. And also, I'm done. And then I thank NIFA and then Sungrant for supporting our research, and also the Borlaug Foundation that allowed me to travel to Kenya and then this Ghana. That's where I had all this cassava and then soy and sweet potato vines and all this cellulosic research. And these are my collaborators. The Chinshu is the one who introduced me all the cellulosic word. So I have been happily working on the cellulosic structure and all the details, but the functionality all goes to this. She's the one who introduced me this Chinshu, and then this Madhav Yadav is my collaborator from USDA, who could chemically analyze the structure. And these are my students, Mohamed Al-Sazal, Safiel, Cecilia, Shafiat, all of them. So that's all I have, and then I'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you for your attention. I don't know whether I'm really fast. Let me see how much time it took. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a detailed presentation. Participants, you are requested to please post your questions in the chat box so that we can take up the questions after a while. Now we've been joined with our next dignitary, and I humbly request Dr. Tanveer Alam, Director, Indian Institute of Packaging under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, Mumbai. His research area are food packaging, package design, sustainable packaging, UN certification. He has been actively involved in UN packaging certification of dangerous goods and packaging regulation and standardization. He has been a board of member of World Packaging Organization and Asia Packaging Federation. His doctoral research work at the prestigious National Dairy Research Institute, Karnal, was based on modified atmosphere packaging of food products. He has visited the University of Copenhagen, Denmark, under the faculty exchange program funded by European Union under East-West Food Project. He has participated in Interpack, Düsseldorf, Germany, and attended the award ceremony of World Packaging Organization. He performed as jury for Asia Star Award and World Star Awards. He has organized several conferences and workshops of national and international stature for promoting packaging industry. He has published several research papers and technical papers in a high impact journal. Apart from delivering invited lectures both in India and abroad, he has also contributed more than 15 book chapters and edited dozens of proceedings and technical souvenir. He is an associate editor of Asian Journal of Dairy Sciences, managing editor of Journal of Packaging Technology and Research, and associated with editorial board of Processed Food Industry. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of AIFT team. Thank you.
Sunaina Sharma. Thanks to the Amity Institute of Food Technology. I recall years back, almost 3 and 4 years back, when I was heading Delhi Center, I have visited your institute and delivered one of the lecture. I hope some of them you remember me. And almost 2 years, I have shifted, now heading in charge of director in charge in the Institute of Packaging. Thanks this opportunity. I hope once this pandemic situation will be over, I will visit to Delhi and we have some more interaction. When I was at Delhi, I thought I would have some interactive programs, collaborative programs and research, but anyhow, it could not materialize. But during my tenure of IIP Delhi as a regional head, I try my best to invite all of you once in a while when we have several conferences or workshops. Now, I'm extremely sorry. I have only half an hour because I have another meeting with the GAIL One Research Project. Review meeting is there around 4 o'clock. But I have shifted. I told my team I will join at 4:30. For that, I'm extremely sorry because for me, you have shifted. You accommodate me. In fact, I can say like thanks to Dr. Khedkar inviting me. I could not say, although I was occupied, but I could not say. I respect, I honor her personally. We have a personal, we can say, relation with the family of Ms. Khedkar. So now I'd like to say, I will go to the topic. I don't know what the earlier speaker were talking. I have seen some of them. One of the earlier speaker, Ms. Srinivasan Ramaswamy. He was talking on some last slide I could see. So he was talking about that biodegradable polymers. Is it?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What was his topic? What was the complete? He was talking completely on
Cellulosic.
cellulosic polymers. So let I don't know that I am not familiar with him, but I hope he was talking about the commercial aspect as well as and the technical aspects. So we can see now this is the very buzzword for the market for the sustainable packaging all around. We are talking too much about the eco-friendly biodegradable polymers and all. We know that we are living in such a circumstances. We are looking alternative packaging. People are more concerned about the environment. We are concerned about the safety, the security, and sustainable packaging. This 3S is very, very common now these days. Safe, secure, and sustainable packaging and packaging material. This is what we can say relevant now these days. We are talking about the circular economy. We are talking about the recyclability. We are talking about that packaging material should be from multi-layer packaging material to the single monomeric multi-layer films, because the concern about the footprint, the whole world is looking the alternative green packaging solutions. But we know each and every technology has its limitations. Therefore, this wonderful, we can say like for this decade has a wonderful innovations, the polymeric material. Lot of advantages is there. Therefore, this packaging material is more than 65% share of the packaging as a packaging material of, especially when in the in the area of food packaging. But we know every beauty has its limitation. So this advantages has one biggest limitation is environmental concern, non-biodegradable. So although this polymeric material people industry has some solution so far, they have come out with some solution of biopolymeric materials. Plastic is compostable. They have developed some technology, some enzyme-based technology. They have come out, and now we are working on that way, how it will be cost-effective and affordable cost biopolymeric materials, so that it should be suitable for food packaging. We know that when we are going to pack a food, we require certain shelf life. Apart from all packaging requirements, we are looking, it must give some shelf life. But when you have a natural biopolymeric materials, it has limitations. It is not at par what will be required to require a certain shelf life. So that need to overcome. So we are, what we can say, we are staying somewhere across the line, where we need to move more and more, better solution. The packaging material we have to improve in such a way it could replace 100% of the petroleum-based polymeric material. So that is the challenge for whole world is looking. We have come with some solutions. Some institutes has developed. We know that they have developed some materials, but we know that they have developed at laboratory level. When I have tried, I have undergone some trial on commercial basis, it fails. So that need to have what the laboratory scale they have developed, need to refine what my understanding so far in the Indian context, because I'm working with the various institutional level. Now, I will give have some presentation. I hope I prepared some presentation. I hope it will be interesting, and I can justify my time and your time. Innovation and sustainability in the food packaging and food processing. Just before going to the main points, it's my duty to discuss about what is the scenario of the packaging. We have to think about it, what is the international scenario and Indian scenario. When we talk about the global packaging market, it is more than 975 billion market. The annual growth is 4 to 5%. When we'll see the Asia Pacific, the world largest packaging market, India, now the Asia Pacific is the one of the third largest packaging market, which is growing more than 5 to 6%. Now we have to see what is the status of Indian packaging market. The Indian packaging market is more than 50.5 billion US market. Big industry is their packaging industry now. In today's scenario, which is growing at the rate of 15 to 18%. And Indian export market of especially for packaging material is more than 843.8 million US market, which is witnessing the growth of 14%. This is the very good, encouraging point what I would like to say. Now you can ask me, sir, this is the pandemic situation. Each and every walk of life is affected. The living style is very much affected. The way of each and doing the business has changed now. Way of teaching and learning has changed. Then what is the impact on the packaging industry? What we have seen for last 1.5 years, we have observed, study says, recent data analysis showing that in spite of this negative impact on the different business, packaging sustains. Packaging industry maintain the growth of 15 to 16%. Earlier it was 18 and even more than 18% growth of the packaging industry. India is the fourth largest packaging market in terms of market volume. We can talk about. Now we can also say that the share of Asia Pacific is 38%. You can see in this slide. The global market based on the geographical distribution, you can see here. So among the Asia Pacific region, India has doing very well in the field of the packaging industry. And when we talk about this, in context to the food, for more than the 65% of this used by when we talk about different sectorial wise of the packaging user industry, food, pharmaceutical, cosmetics, chemicals, and dangerous goods, and other industries. Share of food packaging industry includes the voucher is more than 67%. So huge potential, the growth what we have seen for the years, and even we are looking the potential of the packaging market, food packaging in the food in processing industry. The biggest share is the food industry. More than 67% share of the packaging industry is coming from the food industry. So what is the global food packaging market? The recent study we have, it is more than 305 billion US market, and which has even the, if we can calculate with the rate of 5.9%, it can reach up to the more than 465 billion US market. Now you can see the global food packaging market, fruits and share of the food, fruits and vegetables. You can see bakery, confectionery, dairy products, meat and poultry, seafood. The share of bakery and confectionery is 37%. Biggest chunk. So this is the more or less the same scenario in Indian context. You can see. So Asia Pacific market, you can see the food packaging market is more than 100 billion US market. This is the Indian food packaging market is more than 33.2 billion US market. It will further reach, the forecast is that it will reach more than 156 billion market 2026. If we can maintain, the industry could maintain the current scenario of the growth with the calculated CGR is 30% around. India has seen sustainable packaging growth in food and beverages due to the increase of packaged food consumption and awareness and demand for quality food products. Now you can see here the market size of organized packaged food in Indian market. You can see more than 700 crore rupees market is there. This you can see market size of online retail, how it is growing. Now this is the which segment of the packaging packaged food is having more business. Now of course this post pandemic scenario, we have observed that e-retail, e-commerce business has boomed anyway, and definitely the packaging played a pivotal role and will play certainly an important role to fulfill the whole logistic chain. This is the what we can say. What opportunity is there in India is land of opportunities. Food processing industry is more than you can see has 2.8 lakh crore markets in recent 5 years. The retail market has boomed anything which is growing at a rate of 25%. And India's export has also recorded more than 32.7 billion US market. So this shows the positivity and definitely government focus to improve the food processing. Thus you can see the different segment, how it is working. So the Indian food processing industries, you are well aware about that. Mega food market. You can see this this slide. You can see how different clusters are there in different countries wise, whether agro processing clusters and warehouse. Now, what is packaging? I hope all you are aware, because all from academic fields. This is this basic definition. What we can see. The packaging is science, art, and technology of projecting for safe delivery to the ultimate user or consumer. So we know that we have a very good product development. We have done new product development, but the packaging, once you complete your product development, you complete your processing, the real burden comes on the packaging. Packaging starts when your production and processing finished or end. So describe as, therefore, how we can describe as it is a coordinated system to accomplish or complement to the whole logistic or supply chain systems. All you are aware about that, I would like to say, is the primary, secondary, and tertiary packaging. Each and every types, what we can say, level of the packaging has a different role and it's a characteristics. It is very much important when we talk about the primary packaging. the packaging which contain the actual product, often the pack that the consumer will take home. Sometimes directly we purchase a product in primary packaging itself. Like one example is the like a drinking water, bottled drinking water. And secondary packaging is an outer box that encompasses item box around the toothpaste. That you can, another example we can give. And the tertiary packaging, form of packaging that there is to help in handling of large consolidated smaller containers, pallet, container, or shipping cartons. This is the, which is also called as sheep of packaging, and common example is the corrugated fiberboard boxes and cartons. This is the, now what is the primary function and basic role of packaging? You can see the primary function of the packaging is to help in presentation, present your product in so that it can catch to the eye to the customer. So this is the primary function. Another primary function we can say protect your product, preserve your product, and overall it is not a packaging if your product is not cost effective, not affordable. So it is very much important because this, the cost is one of the major factor accompanies the whole the packaging. The higher cost, if cost is not affordable, so there will be no taker and all. So when you have to develop a packaging, you have to calculate what is the cost, what will be the cost involved. And because the, when we talk about the any product, marketable product, sellable cost of the products, the cost of the packaging involves. Then it so therefore we have to consider the cost of the packaging is important. And of course, now we are talking about it, the convenience and use. This is the customer's point of view. How use convenient, how use to handle, how we have to ergonomic is there. So the packaging helps in easier way of the transportation. So lighter in weight, and user what we can say, it must be used by a friend, user friendly. What you will believe, the maybe the some handles, then caps and closer, and some grip on the packaging, and then how it appears on a SL or a self. So these are the functions are required, and for the primary or basic role for the packaging. You can see recently we have some of the ergonomic convenience you can see on the slides. Then secondary function of the packaging is that containment, how to contain your product. Then another secondary function of the packaging is that how you can inform, help in branding of your product. So therefore we can say, talk about that packaging helps for brand value of the product. It is also equally important. It helps in brand differentiation. Product is differentiated by the packaging. What type of the brand, whether Nestle or Britannia, whatever is there, Amul, it is the packaging through the consumers are getting information which brand it is. Therefore, we can say packaging for the brand differentiation, brand value of a product, helps in identification of particular product, what type of the product it is. The packaging, therefore, overall, we can say these are the secondary function. And of course, packaging is tool for advertisement. It informs to the customer what type of the product, what brand it is there, what name of the product, what are the company name. These are the, and of course, labeling is very much important, which fulfill the compliances, regulatory compliances through the labeling. It may be the barcode, QR code and all. And the handling, how helps. This is the secondary role. How, because we have to preserve in a store. So how it will behave, how the packaging is strong enough so that it can help during the storage or transportations, and how it can be manually or mechanically we have to handle. So we have to keep in mind these are the comes under the secondary function of the packaging. Now you can see if it is not properly proper, not shape and size is being maintained, on a particular pallet. So you can see through this picture, it will not be properly easily help in logistics. So like another important, what I have discussed about the rule of a food packaging and labeling. We can say this is the 11th commandment. Now you can see 11 commandments which is required for rule for food packaging and labeling. Logos, nutrition fact, manufacturing informations, expiry date, barcode, and description about the product, instruction, quantity of the product, what are the ingredients are. These are the mandatory 11 commandments are required for good labeling of packaged foods. Now you can see, which is a better way. What are the important labeling informations? So now we can say earlier what we have discussed primary, secondary, and labeling. Now the modern role of the packaging. Earlier we used to say packaging is a silent salesman. Now we can see all you agree with my statement it is an aggressive tool of marketing. Helps to promote your product, therefore add your brand value, improve your brand value, differentiate product from the rival. What type of your product? Sometimes if you have a good package design, it will give the edge in the market of your brand. Then key part of the brand image. Eat healthy and think better. You can say some of the slogans becomes household name. How intelligently these slogans as a part you have to incorporate. How it becomes so that it becomes a household name. The shape, color, and size relate to the customer motivation. You can see sometimes very funny shape, and shapes are designed to keep in mind of particular age group, particular gender group. According to their likeness, the package is designed. And study says such type of the innovation in packaging design drastically impact on the sales on the customer. Similarly, another key factor in the customer decision making of the product. You can see how slight change in the color combination and conveniently. Study says more than up to the 15 to 20% impact on the marketability of the product. Medium for advertising, you know, sometimes and most of the times packaging plays a good advertisement tool. A lot of the industries are focusing now effectively with the better result and outcomes as an advertisement tool as a packaging. This I want to discuss about it. I hope all you aware basic things. These are the common material: glass, paperboard, plastics, metal, tin containers, corrugated fiber board, wooden materials are being used as a packaging materials. The key packaging materials in Indian packaging industry, now you can see through these slides, and more than 66% what I have earlier mentioned about it. It is slightly more changed. Now it is the 67% is the plastic materials are being used as a food packaging materials. This is the different share of the material based, you can see. What I want to say, all you are from food industry, you are focusing more on the new product development. And of course, new company, new ventures are coming, startups are coming in the markets. They want to launch new product. Especially now people are more concerned about the health food, nutritious food than what I would like to say. We have to, if you want to market successfully with good results, you have to keep in mind these are the P factors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 P is important as a marketing mix, as a marketing tool to successfully launch your new product into the market. One of them is packaging. So packaging is what shows off the product. What I can say, modern role of the packaging is that shows of the product in the best light, display the price and value of the product, communicate the product's benefit to the customer and what physically appears in the various distribution point of view. So it is what I can say. I have discussed about that. Out of 7 P of the marketing tool, one of the important tool of marketing, aggressive tool, what we can say is the packaging. This innovative role of packaging. We have discussed the basic. We have discussed now so far the market status internationally in Indian market. We have discussed about the food. We have also discussed about the different packaging materials and its distribution. And now we are talking role of innovation in packaging. Okay, so the innovative role. Innovative packaging role, sustainable, cost-effective solution, positive impact or effect on products marketing campaign. This is the innovative role. Keeping in mind, each and every innovator, packaging professional, packaging scientist, they give innovation. First thing in his or her mind is that sustainable packaging, then cost-effective packaging, and of course, how it will help to positive impact. We are talking in this COVID scenario, positivity. Same way, I would like to say that packaging is playing a positive impact on campaign of a particular product when you are launching. The packaging as an effective marketing tool. We have to keep in mind, innovative aspect is how it is style will impact, positive impact on customer's mind. What is the purpose? What type of the target group? What will be the value and how it will improve your brand value of your products? Then third innovative packaging role is that marketing material selection. It is one of the important rules. Being a packaging professional, being a packaging scientist, being a packaging industrialist, how helps for stability in terms of shelf life, in terms of security, and of course it is very much important. Whatever the packaging material, you have to have a keep certain things in mind. One of the important is the compatibility of the product. Your packaging material you are going to choose must be compatible. It should not negative impact of your product. It should not impart any component or any leaching or any harmful migrations from packaging material to the product. This is very much important. We have to do some certain compatible study when you have to select a packaging material, whether new or old. You have to have, being a packaging food scientist, you have to keep in mind. And overall warehouse, because packaging is tool for logistic. Packaging helps for the completes, helps for whole logistic or supply chains. How much the space utilization, big cost involved for the logistic cost is involved for any transport, any products, especially food product transportations, because foods are highly perishable item before processing. If you have to improve the perishability of food items, you need to have a good packaging. Then one packaging you cannot transport, cost is involved. Then you have to multiple packaging food items in one place. That is that operation is known as unitization of the packaging, consolidation of the packaging, consolidate your packaging in multi-modal transportation. Sometimes you have to transport your product by road, then rail, again road. So your packaging must be suitable, compatible in all multi-modal packaging and transportation systems. Now you can see benefits of good packaging. Lighter packaging may save your transportation cost. These are the innovation. First, so therefore we are talking sustainable. If earlier you have a more volume, more mass, heavier packaging material, now you have a lighter packaging material. You have various experiences earlier when you used to have a beer bottles. It was very heavier in weight. Now we have a lighter weight beer in your hand. So this is one aspect of good, sustainable, innovative packaging. So your packaging material must be lighter in weight. Earlier, your can is where 3-piece cans being used to pack food items. Now you have lighter weight can materials, 2-piece can material. These are the what we can say again sustainable. You are minimizing the carbon footprint. If your volume and mass is lesser, your then this aspect is being fulfilled. Careful planning of the packaging size, cubes, so that maximal use or space utilizations for storage and handling and transportation. More protective packaging may reduce the damage and requirement for special handling. So therefore, protective packaging is coming. Cushioning, certain engineering aspects are required to give overall in total solution of the packaging. Environmental friendly, that already I have discussed. Earlier speaker also talked. I hope that he has covered what are the environmental packaging, what are the eco-friendly packaging and sustainable packaging. And of course, this is another aspect of now these days. Industry is looking solution for more returnable packaging containers to save the cost, and also environmental benefits. And overall interfaces well with the material handling equipment. Of course, your packaging material must be. Now we know we are living in the packaging world, whole world is living in such a way, demanding way. What type of the newer packaging post-COVID challenges is there? What we can say, like less touch packaging. We are talking less intervention of the human intervention, human touch, human contaminations. So therefore, in coming days, more automation is required so that less involvement of the humans to complete the this whole chain. Now, packaging design, it is very much important. When you have packaging design, two aspects is important. One is structural design, another is aesthetic design. Both are equal, both are important, both are two sides of a coin, both are two wheels of a cart. If you have a very good structural design, if no good aesthetic, then you will fail for a marketing part. You cannot penetrate in the market. If you have an aesthetic is good design, but your product will not fulfill your desired functionality to give the shelf life, then the purpose again will be failed. So both important design aspects we have to consider. When we have to design, we have to consider these are the factors. What is the package geometry? What is the product mass and density? What are the packaging material to be used? And what is the required optimum condition in terms of relativity, in terms of temperature, in terms of gases interaction, and then of course moisture is very much important, and of course natural characteristic about the product. So these are the few factors is important when you have a design, and especially now we are talking about sustainable package design, so that minimal use of resources. 3R is important when we talk about the sustainable packaging. 3R: reduction, reduce, and recycling. So when we have to reduction in overall, in terms of the mass, in terms of the cost, and reuse and recyclable. These 3 R's are important. Keeping in mind, you can develop a sustainable, innovative food design with less carbon footprint. What we can say, these are factors. Because I have short of time, within 5 minutes I have to finish because I have to start another meeting. I have to join. These are the factors. I'm extremely sorry. Factors governing the food packaging design: price, cost, protection level, how we have to standardize the process, channel or distribution, what type of the mode of transportation is required. We have to, this governs the good packaging design. Who are your competitors? We have to also do the market research. These are the market factors. And overall, how it media interest, what we can say, how it will impact in positive way to the customer. So product attributes is also important. These are the factors we have to consider for good design. These are the polymeric material or packaging material generally used: plastic film, cellulose, aluminum foils. And why? Now we are talking, there is a lot of hue and cry. I know a lot of the participation, your interest, you have heard about the multi-layer films and mono films, and then multi-layer to mono-layer films. it has advantages and disadvantages. While we are avoiding nowadays, government is also concerned about the multi-layer film should not be used. This is another debate in other forum. I will discuss about that, why it is important, what is the solution, what is the new regulation about the MLP, and what is the single-use plastics. These are the various controversy, what we can say, various challenges in the packaging industry, food packaging industry is there. So it because it differs, this packaging material differs in terms of oxygen permeability, in terms of moisture barrier ability, resistance to cold and hot conditions, and of course it must give the proper mechanical strength to contain, transport, and store your product. These are the single layer films which is generally used, PE, PA, and PVC and PP based, and multi-layer films. You can see here, these are the PE and PP combination, MODS, MedPet, and each and every layer has its function. Like for example, multi-layer layer A, P, and PP provides mechanical strength and good oxygen barrier property. Middle layer of MODI, MOH provides the barrier against the oxygen, and inside layer must be a good sealant property. So that now you can see aluminum foil bags is superior to in terms of impermeability, provides better moisture and oxygen barrier properties. And now that I'm not going to touch, because earlier speaker, he discussed about the bio-based polymers, edible films, biocompatibility, aesthetic properties, barrier properties. These are the advantages, and these are the different sources of bio-based polymers. I hope he has discussed, and this is the modern trends in the packaging, retort pouches, macro-vulnerable packs, and packaging. The packaging should be thermoplastic with the stability of the 200 to 50 degrees. These are the basic requirements when you have to develop macro-ovenable packs. These are the packaging methods, conventional packaging method. You can see bags, pouches, trays, overwrap, and vacuum packaging, vacuum pouches, and of course, modified atmospheric packaging. It is another takes a lot of times. Now you can see recent development in the packaging. The packaging must be communicative, and then you have to augment the reality requirement of the markets. Smart packaging, we are talking nano packaging. These are the recent development of the packaging. We are talking about active packaging material. We are talking about biodegradable plastic material, packaging material, sustainable packaging. And of course, we are talking artificial intelligence, robotic, and blockchain packaging system nowadays. These are some of the advances. I hope you, during your academic course curriculum, it is being discussed by advanced technologies are active packaging. Active and intelligent is smart packaging, packaging which changes the condition of the packed food to extend the shelf life or to improve the safety or sensory properties while maintaining the quality of the packaged food with incorporation of certain additives to or freshness enhancer. This may be oxygen scavenger, the antimicrobial packaging, ethanol generator to control ripening, moisture absorber to control the moisture content, so that moisture should not impact from outside, and by the same time it should not allow the moisture. So therefore, there should not be any losses in the content of the product. And of course, sometimes we require a certain carbon dioxide scavenger as well as emitter. Both way it is important to control. These are the few example. Oxygen is one of the detrimental factor to have what we can say causing this polish. So some of the scavengers, and it may be the UV light activator. Carbon dioxide emitters, you can see it may be used in form of a sachet or label, and some of the carbon dioxide absorbers are based on this calcium oxide based silica gels. These are the common carbon dioxide emitters. Definitely helps for the inhibition of the microbial, especially the aerobic microorganisms and fungi. Therefore, one of the important tool. And of course, some studies also say that it can control the food toxin, packaged food, especially the toxic materials. Some studies say these are the moisture absorber. If you control the moisture, you can control the moisture, and then antimicrobial packaging. Yeah, because you are working with the multidisciplinary approach, very good opportunities. Different food ingredients having antimicrobial component. You can develop some ingredient in it, and then you can make a functional component ingredient can be used as a packaging material or coating materials that can help to develop an antimicrobial packaging material. This you can see different naturally derived antimicrobial packaging materials. It may be catocin based, which is very much successful for antifungal, antibacterial properties, antimicrobial activity, amide groups. These are the some of the antimicrobials, acid anhydride, alcohol, bacteriogens, enzyme, organic, polysaccharide based. So now you can see smart packaging. Now people are very much confused about active packaging and intelligent packaging systems. Sometimes people confuse about the intelligent and smart packaging. Now you can see what I have discussed about the intelligent packaging system, which monitor the condition of the packaged foods to give the information about the quality of the packaged food during the transport and storage. Where when earlier active packaging is interactive packaging, however, intelligent packaging tells about the information. So information and sensor indicators, these are the tool for smart packaging. However, scavengers, emitters, these are the tool for active packaging. This is the basic difference between the active and smart packaging systems. So radio frequency identification tag is one of the example for intelligent packaging tool. Now you can see this is the mechanism of active packaging. Intelligent packaging, you can see how they are temperature sensitive. They can help. Now you can see it informs to the customer how safe after a certain period of time. With now in coming days, the packaged food will say whether I'm suitable for eating or not. So there's some these labels have application in many industries, food, pharmaceutical, and food industries. This is the future of intelligent packaging. What we can say, the smart. We are also working. IIP is working with the collaborative approach of developing some apps for the intelligent packaging. This is the reality. So because I'm extremely sorry, I am not going to discuss too much about the CAP and MAP. Just I want to differentiate between both MAP and CAP refers to the use of modified gases. We know that there is a composition of atmospheric air is different than the when we have to modify it with deliberate. So therefore, how we can define MAP is enclosure of food in a package in which the atmosphere inside the package is modified. That is composition. It may be the carbon dioxide, oxygen, or nitrogen, or their combination. This is all about the MAP. These are the recommended combination for the MAP. You can see we can use for the MAP as LDP film, PVDC, or combination thereof. We can use another multi-layer films to help in the especially fresh food items. These are the I'm extremely sorry. These are the different indicators are being used, and overall we can see another film you can see regarding the sustainable.
About 1/3 of the world's total carbon dioxide comes from food. And yet we throw away more food than ever. As much as 173 kilos per year per EU citizen. So the European Union recently decided to set a goal to halve the food waste by 2030. This will make packaging much more than just a container. It will make it a hero. More, smarter, and greener packaging are part of the solution, and they will make change possible. Food waste will be partly reduced by transporting food in better packaging, which will help decrease damage and increase durability. But the biggest impact will come from changing the behavior and habits of the consumers. Through research and innovation, we can replace fossil components with primary forest products. Bio-based functional electronic materials will be able to tell what the packaging has experienced since it was filled and how it was handled during transport. This will give the customer a sense of security, and it will work like a modern certificate of authenticity. But the possibilities would be endless. In the future, your packaging could notify you on your smartphone when a product is close to its use-by date. So your food won't need to be thrown away, and this will help reduce waste. Packaging could communicate the consumer's daily energy needs and remind us when we've eaten too much or too little. Packaging could communicate with your stove to suggest the ideal temperature and cooking time. Or packaging could help facilitate and reward the correct recycling in new and smart ways, which means we will be using all the endless possibilities of primary forest products. The forest will give us the answers, and by researching primary forest products, we will discover how we can enter a sustainable future with better food and smarter.
So these are the recent achievement in sustainable packaging we have developed at IIP. What we can say, many work, many of the work is under process. Especially now you can see we have developed more than 40 package design for a handloom handicraft product, as well as some traditional product like Nalangur, where we got a patent and all that. We have also developed innovative packaging recently for honey. For the travel traffic ministry, you can see. So these are the few work. And now we are working to develop alternative packaging material as a part of sustainable challenges given by the government. Some bamboo-based packaging material we have developed at IIP. Thanks very much. I'm extremely sorry due to I have another meeting.
Thank you, sir. It's okay, sir. We understand your prior commitments. Thank you for such an interesting presentation. Thank you so much.
Just a moment, Dr. Sunan. I would like to thank Dr. Alam for, despite his busy schedule, he has taken time out for us. And sir, you have really obliged us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Sir, if you can permit, if you can give, give 2 minutes, there is just one question. What is the best way to deal with the plastic pollution in India? So this is the question from the audience.
My answer will be like a post-consumer waste management. One word is very important. This is the real solution. Although industry is taking care of that, industry is now looking the solution for industrial solution. We can say they are doing under the CSR fund. They are focusing on the recycling waste material. But what we can say, post-consumer waste management is the best solution. We know that all three stakeholders has to take care of that. Then we can win these challenges of the what we can say waste packaging, plastic waste materials. So being a customer, being producers, producer responsibility already let down processes. They are producer responsibility. Now we are also talking corporate responsibility is underway. That a lot of work they are doing. And being producers, they should take the responsibility. Producers ownership responsibility. They have to collect what amount of the packaging they are marketing. It's their responsibility to recycle it. This is the one answer. The being a producer's response. Another consumer should understand their responsibility. That will come. What will come is that, then another mechanism we have to make in the loop is the proper collection, segregation, recyclability. The responsibility of municipality of different municipality throughout the country and metros, they have to be very strong. Although rules are there, every day in different forum, different ministerial meeting, we are talking about the rules are there already. Then need to implement it properly. And so then of course another we are also giving the suggestion. So we are backbone. Although we can say it is the curse for the society, rag picker. You can say it is the curse. But being a packaging expert, what we are looking at, they are the boon for the society. They are more than 65. Studies says more than 65% of the PET materials are coming in the cycle due to the thanks to the rag picker. There's some policy should be there, some incentives to be given this rag picker so that they can collect all. Because what they're doing, the biggest challenge for this collection and segregation is that they collect all the PET bottles. but they don't collect this sachet because less volume and less mass is there. We have to give the incentives through these NGOs. These are the small solution put together, all stakeholders to come together. And of course, in this whole chain, one new things will be great successful is that we have to give the information to young generation, children. This one chapter should be incorporate sustainable packaging, post-consumer waste management from the childhood, children's syllabus and all that we are pushing at the government level. So that from the beginning, because this is the if the children will be well educated, they will practice, then it will become a real what we can say implementation of whole, and the real information will percolate in the what we can say first stage on the society. This is the best. So all three stakeholders, properly segregation, recycling, and these stakeholders, we have to make awareness about this as a campaign basis will be the real solution. And definitely recycling again will be the big business for the country.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
I'm
definitely.
looking, being a packaging professional, the opportunity from waste. This is the golden, what we can say, the golden business will come if such organized young, I can say we can push, because you are also having a pressure to give the right education, startup solution. Ask to the people why you can start business for the recycling and make some value-added packaging material from the waste. This is the solution for the country. Yes, thank you.
Very right, sir. Very right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Chalo, join.
As we move towards the last presentation of Day 3 workshop, I am honored to invite Dr. Hilal Ahmed Makru, Assistant Professor, Islamic University of Science and Technology, Jammu and Kashmir. His research interests are novel extraction and recovery process of natural components from food waste utilization, rheology and textural analysis and process modeling, and biochemical engineering. Awarded with Commonwealth Split Site Scholarship to perform 12 months PhD research as a visiting PhD student at the Department of Chemical and Processing Engineering, University of Surrey, Guildford, United Kingdoms, and with over 20 publications and authored 7 book chapters, I welcome you, sir, for today's session. He will be talking on basis and recent advances in drying and hydration of food. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, am I visible? Yeah, I'm visible as well.
Yes. Yes,
Thank
you are
you very
visible.
much, Dr. Sharma. And I would like to thank you all for giving me this chance. So I am a beginner in this research, but I would like to give my best. Is my presentation visible?
Sir, it will. Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it on the slide mode. Yes, thank you.
It
sir.
is.
Yeah, it is in
visible.
the maximize mode.
Yes.
Yes.
So I am Hilal. I am from Department of Food Technology. I am working here since last 3 years. And before that, I was doing my PhD from Tezpur University, which was a split site program with University of Surrey in England. So my today's topic is the drying and the recent advance in drying of food. So basically, when we talk about the drying, it is related to the moisture, or the removal of moisture to be precise. And this is one of the oldest technologies. Even now, still people use sometimes sun drying for drying of food material. So this is one of the oldest method of processing food or preserving food for longer duration. So before we go to in detail of the drying, it is related to the moisture, and what we want to do is to prevent the food spoilage. So there are a couple of terms which we need to understand before we discuss the drying in detail. So first is moisture content. It is simply the amount of water which is present in any material. So speaking about food here, so amount of water that is present in the food, and it is simply the total amount of water present in the food, and it may influence the characteristics of the product. For example, it may change its density, it may change its viscosity, conductivity, and other properties. However, when we talk about the spoilage, we are mostly concerned about the spoilage of food due to microbial growth. And we know there are a lot of parameters required for the growth of microbes, and water or the moisture is one of the prime factor which is responsible, which is critically required by the microbes for their growth. So when we talk about the moisture and spoilage of food by microbes, so we are least bothered about how much water is present in a material, but we want to identify how much water is present in food which is available for the microbial growth or the microbes which may attack the food. So that is why we call it as water activity, which basically, when we want to find it out, it is the ratio of the partial pressure of water in food with respect to the partial pressure of pure water. So for example, if we talk about jam and bread, their moisture is to some extent very close to each other, but when we see the shelf life of bread under normal conditions is a couple of days, but we can keep the jam for weeks or sometimes months. So that is because of, although the moisture amount, the percentage of the water is same in both the cases, however, the water activity, the available moisture for the microbes is different in both of these, which may depend upon the complex structure of the material. So on the base of water activity, there are three regions: region 1, region 2, as we can see in this diagram. It has been divided into three regions. From 0 to 0.25, it is first region, and there is no possibility of growth of microbes in this region. And even in second region, there is no possibility of growth of microbes, but there can be some enzymatic activities may occur in this second region, which is from 0.25 to 0.275. However, in the last region, which is towards the highest level of the water activity, that is from 0.75 to 1, and in this region, there is the chance of growth of microbes. And here we can see how different microbes have different behavior, how they behave, how their growth behaves differently in this region. So you can see the mold can attack at even lower, even at 0.75, while as bacteria need water activity of more than 0.95 for their activity in the food. So if we somehow reduce the water activity of the product below 0.75, that means we can prevent its spoilage because of the growth of the microbes. So that is why there are different objectives of the processing and preservation of food. For example, the prime goal of the food processing or preservation is to convert the perishable food, such as fruits and vegetables, into stabilized products that can be stored for extended periods. And during the harvesting season, we produce food material in a huge amount, and the demand is relatively less. So we want to keep it for the off season, or we sometimes need to produce it at a particular place or a region which is not available in the other region of the country or in the world, so that we can get the time so that it can be transported from the place of its origin, and it can be taken to the other place where it is not available. So that is from the marketing point of view. Another thing is that we want to get rid of the monotonous diet in the seasonal, with respect to the seasonal food products. That is why we want to preserve the food, and there are different ways of processing food. So generally, the perishable foods are high in moisture, and their available nutrients are higher, so there is chances of microbial growth always. So that is why we move to the processing and preservation of the food. So there are different ways of food processing methods. For example, we can add the chemical preservatives, although it is a very old method of processing food or preserving food, and there are a lot of criticism regarding the conventionally using chemical preservatives. Sometimes nowadays there are some new methods where we try to reduce the amount, or we can completely get rid of the chemical additives which has been proven to be cause the cancer or some other health related issues in human beings. So we move to the newer or novel methods of food preservation. And another category is the thermal processing, which could be canning or pasteurization, drying, the topic of today's discussion, low temperature storage. We can keep the food material at low temperature storage. We can freeze the food material. Again, in freezing, what we want to do is the main objective of freezing is to freeze the water so that it is unavailable for the growth of microbes. Because of that, only we can achieve the desired shelf life of the product. Fermentation, we try to change the environment of the food. Sometimes we reduce its pH. For example, in yogurt or curd or in pickles, we reduce the pH of the food so that it can be kept for longer duration. Or there are some permanent products from which we get the secondary products like some alcoholic drinks and others. And there are some modern methods of food preservation like high pressure processing, pulse electric field, and novelties there in thermal processing of conventional methods have been replaced by novel methods of thermal processing. For example, the conduction mode of or using steam in thermal processing or plate heat exchange or heat exchangers, we have used some novel methods. For example, microwave heating or ohmic heating is being studied for the application for replacing the traditionally or the conventionally present thermal processing methods in the food. So drying and dehydration is one of the oldest food preservation methods. It is alternative to canning and freezing because we can preserve the food material without canning or without freezing by removing the moisture from it. It is safe and easy to use. So there is no refrigeration required generally in dried foods. And there are some other secondary benefits which we get from the drying, which is we reduce the volume of or the weight of the food material. And because of the reduction in the volume and the weight of the food material, the transportation charges, the packaging charges, the storage charges, or the keeping charges, they get reduced. So that way it is also we get benefited. So from the point of view of charges or expenses, we somehow reduce the product cost, which ultimately is going to add into the final product of the product which reached to the consumer. So in drying, we reduce the moisture and to stop the growth of microbes, for example, yeast, molds, and bacteria. Also, the action of enzymes is sometimes detrimental. So by reducing the moisture, we know that moisture is very critical in any kind of reaction which is assisted by quality degrading enzymes. So that can be also controlled by removing the moisture from the food material. So what are the factors which affect the drying? So there are many factors which affect the drying. For example, temperature. We can see in winters it takes a long time to dry a material if we sun dry it. In summers it gets dried very easily. So that is the fact of temperature. Although humidity is also very important. Surface area is also important. For example, if we spread a material on the trays, it gets dried easily. While as if we make a lump of the product, it will take longer time to dry the same material if it is kept in comparison to if it is kept in the spread manner. Relative humidity, if the drying medium is air and it already contains a lot of humidity, so in that case, it will be less efficient to remove the moisture from the food in comparison to the less humid air if we use it for the same purpose. Velocity of the air, we all must have observed that under the fan, our clothes can get dried very easily, while as if we keep them in stagnant air, it takes relatively higher time to get it dried under the same conditions, for example, temperature and relative humidity. Atmospheric pressure is also important, which we are going to discuss in next slides. What is the role of pressure in the drying, and the solid concentration in some cases when we use a specific type of drying. So when we talk about the drying, if we assume this round box, this round shape as a food matrix, so initially moisture can be present at any place, So initially the moisture which is on the surface of the product, surface of the material or surface of the matrix, it will be taken off by the drying medium. And here we are discussing the drying medium as the air. So at this stage, the drying will be very constant, very rapid. Here in this plot, we can see initially when we reduce the drying from this portion to this, from B to C or from A to C, it is very constant and it is very rapid as well. So you can see the stage of drying of tomatoes. Initially, the tomato looks like this, and with the drying, its shape gets changed and its color as well gets changed as we reach to the final stage of the drying. So next stage is when the moisture in the food material present has to come from inside the material to its surface, and then it will be taken off by the air. So the moisture which is trapped in the capillaries, it has to come first to the surface, and from the surface it will be taken off by the drying medium or air. So that at that stage, this point is the point C in the drying, and this stage is called as the first fall. At this stage, the drying becomes slightly complex, and there is the reduction in the drying rate as the drying progresses. And the next step is when the moisture is trapped somewhere in the matrix or the in between two cells of the food material, it first has to reach to the capillary, and from capillary it has to reach to the surface, and from the surface it will be taken off. So it is again very complicated as compared to the previous case. So again there is the fall of drying rate, so that is called as second falling rate. So this is the conventional or very established drying rate curve, especially in case of hot air drying. So how does a material behave, or its moisture content or weight change with the drying time? Obviously, because when we remove the moisture, its weight will reduce and its moisture content will reduce. So in thumb rule, it doesn't follow a linear relationship. It follows a logarithmic relationship. So there are different models which express, and it may vary from the product to product. So generally, we can say it follows a logarithmic or first order reaction to change its moisture during the drying conditions. So these here are some results which we have observed at different temperatures. What is the effect of the temperature of drying to achieve the desired drying or the final moisture in the product? How the time has been reduced from almost 3 hours or quarter to 3 hours to nearly 1 hour just by increasing the temperature by couple of few degrees of temperature. And again, the temperature dependency of the drying process can be explained is by well-established Arrhenius model, and we can get this activation energy, that how easy it is to remove the moisture under different conditions. So that was about the drying behavior. This is all traditional or the conventional method of drying, how a material behaves. So drying can be achieved, removal of moisture can be achieved by different methods, different traditional methods, as well as there has been recent advances in the drying of food material. So newer methods have been developed. And it's not necessary if we apply a particular drying method on a particular food material, it's not necessary that same method can be applied to another method. For example, liquid materials may not be dried by a method which is suitable for a dry material. So drying method may change as per the product conditions, as per the required conditions, or as per the desired conditions from the product manufacturer. So sun drying, as we know, it is a very old method and it can be used in many ways. And after using the direct sunlight, sometimes it can be used in indirect way, like in direct method of sun drying, we put the material in a space and the direct sun rays falls on the product, and because of raising its temperature, the moisture gets evaporated from the surface. While as in indirect method, the solar radiations do not directly incident on the material to be dried, rather the air is heated first, then that heated air is supplied through a duct to the material and it can be heated. So the main factors which affect the drying during the sun drying or indirect sun drying are the heater configuration, what kind of design we have choose, what is the airflow rate. As I said, that the velocity of the air is also important. Spectral properties of the absorber which we have used to heat the air, its properties are important. Air barriers, heat transfer coefficient, insulation, if there is any chance of leakage of the heat, we have to prevent that to make it more efficient. So hot air drying systems, air is one of the oldest and one of the common heating medium used for drying of the food. So there are many designs or many methods to be used for using air as a drying medium for drying of the food material. For example, a cabinet dryer, which is very small cabinet dryer, there are trays in it, and we let the air blow from we heat the air inside the chamber, and that air, once it is heated, there is a space from where we can let it go, or we can close it if the drying is towards the towards its end. We can keep the air inside so that maximum moisture can be removed, because at the end of the drying, the percentage of the moisture in the dried air will air coming out from the material will be less. So make it more efficient, we can close the lid and stop the air coming out for some timing, or we can relatively reduce the airflow from this. So it is one of the basic and generally used for very small pilot scale or in laboratory purposes. So other hot air drying systems can be a tunnel dryer, in which, as we can see in this diagram, that there are trucks loaded with the trays of food and hot air is blown. It can be blown in co-current or counter-current fashion, so that the air which is supplied to the trucks will take away the moisture and it goes out from the exhaust air. So this is also one of the established use for the solid materials of slices of fruits and vegetables can be dried by this method of drying. Other drying systems or hot air drying system could be a belt and throw, which is basically an agitated bed used for drying of fruits or cuts of fruits and vegetables of very small dimension, because you have to agitate them so that during agitation the heat transfer coefficient can be increased, or its efficiency can be, or heating time can be reduced. So it consists of a conveyor which basically is of the mesh shape, and the air is blown from the bottom so that there is a good contact of the drying air and the food material. In other type of dryer or drying systems, pneumatic conveyor dryer, the feed material is introduced in a fast moving stream of the air, and it is because of the high speed of the air, there will be obviously the drying rate will be increased, and it is conveyed through a duct of a sufficient length to bring about desired drying. And once the desired drying has been achieved, the material is separated, or the dried product is separated using a cyclone or a filter. So that is basically we use aerodynamics in this type of food dryer. So another type of dryer is, it's not air dryer, but it is the contact dryer, in which we use drums, or it is also known as roller dryer. It is very important and inexpensive drying technology suitable for wide range of products. For example, we can use it for potato mash to dry, and some slurry type of products which we don't have the problem of glass transition in them. So those type of products can be dried using this type of dryer. And in this, there could be different configurations. For example, we can use a single roller, in which inside there is steam is being passed and the product is applied on the surface of the roller, and the roller is being circulated, and once the desired moisture has been removed or the level of drying has been achieved, the dried product can be scraped using a knife or doctor's knife. And there could be different configurations. For example, we can use a couple of simultaneously we can use two rollers or the drums at the same time. And sometimes to make a better contact, we can use the applicators if we want to make a better contact, or we want to spread the material uniformly and having a good contact with the heated surface of the roller, we can use the applicators. While as in some cases, if the material is very thin, we can simply make the dipping arrangements that the roller is made to dip in the thin material, and because it sticks to the surface, and as it rotates, because of the heated surface, the moisture is being removed, and before it goes out, it can be trapped to make it more efficient. The moisture from the chamber can be removed continuously or trapped continuously, so that there is not absorption of the moisture or the absorption of the water or the moisture from the moist air which is already produced from the drying material, and it should be prevented to get into the final product. So basically the arrangements are like, we have a roller and we feed the material and it rolls and we collect the final product. So another type of drying is fluidized bed drying. As the name indicates, there is fluidization. It is used for the solid product of granular shapes, and it is most suitable for the product which are of granular shapes and spheric, having a good sphericity. So here also we apply the aerodynamic concept. We let hot air is forced through a bed of the food particles at a sufficiently high velocity to overcome the gravitation forces. So a bed of the product is lifted by the high-speed drying air from the bottom, and it is remained suspended until the desired drying is achieved. And why we want to make it suspended? There are some advantages. For example, there is proper mixing of the drying medium, which is air in this case, and the agitation in the material or the grains make the drying process very speedy or very efficient. Also, there is uniform drying because there is no settling of the product, or there is no contact of the drying material or drying grains with any part of the machine, so it remains suspended. So the moisture is being removed uniformly. But there are some constraints with this type of dryer, because you have to regulate the velocity, because as the drying proceeds, the moisture of the product gets reduced and its density gets reduced. So as the density reduced, the velocity of the air required to make it suspended will be also reduced. That is why we have to keep a watch of this, so that a proper velocity at a proper time of drying will be supplied, so that the proper fluidization is achieved. So in this case, we can see that initially the bed is fixed. There is no momentum of the grains or the product to be dried. And as we supply the gas, there is slight movement, minimal fluidization. And as we reach the critical velocity of the air, it lifts and makes a smooth fluidization. Even we don't stop there, we further increase the velocity until we reach the bubbling fluidization. Because of this bubbling fluidization, what we achieve is there is proper mixing in the grains, and because of the agitation or turbulence in the fluid, there will be proper mixing and agitation, and it will ultimately increase the overall drying efficiency, or drying time can be reduced. So it will make the drying quick. But after that, we have to keep care of the velocity, so that it is not going beyond a particular level, so that it makes the product flow out of the chamber of the fluidization. So the air velocity is very critical in this case, and it changes with the time. Therefore, a proper monitoring system is required in fluidized bed drying. So it has some limitations, that the particle size generally, if it is too less, we cannot use it for if the material is of powder character because there is lump formation or dust formation will occur. And again, if the particle size is very high, greater than 10 mm, so again, this type of drying is not suitable because it is very difficult to generate that much of velocity, or it makes it expensive to generate hot air of that velocities which can lift the higher particle size grains and make them fluidized. Another method of conventional drying is spray drying. The spray drying method is most important for liquid foods. The milk, which is the skimmed milk powder available in the market, is mostly produced by the spray drying. The concept is that we make spray of the material and we throw it into a drying chamber, which is with the drying gas we supply it. And because of the moisture exchange of the drying gas between drying gas and the atomized product, a lot of moisture from the atomized product gets absorbed by the drying gas, and the drying gas is collected. And before these particles reach to the bottom, they got dried, and we collect them from the bottom. And if there is any particle which has been taken away by the drying gas, that can be further separated from this gas using a cyclone separator, and sometimes we use the filters. So there are again some limitations with this type of drying system. Like if the material is viscous, it can block the nozzle. So there are different types of nozzles as per the requirement. For example, we can use a pressure nozzle. Sometimes we use the wheel nozzle if the material has the tendency to block or clog the pressure nozzle. So again, it depends upon which type of nozzle do we use. It will make the process energy efficient or deficient. Generally, the wheel nozzles, the pressure nozzle are energy inexpensive as compared to the wheel nozzle. So we atomize the product through the nozzle, and there is a contact of the sprayed material and the drying medium, which is generally hot air, and there is a separation of dry material from the moist air. So most of this type of drying method is mostly used for spraying, so for drying of skimmed milk, where there is the fat of the spray, the fat of the milk is less than 0.1%. So these were these conventional methods where mostly we use the dry air, or we use this solar energy, or we use the contact of very heated surface to remove the moisture. But what recent strategies can be applied? So sustainability strategies may be categorized on two different criteria. One is we can improve the already existing dryers by putting a proper insulation method. We can recirculate the heat, or we can collect the heat out of it. We can look after the operating conditions, and we can improvise there so that we can achieve a good efficiency or relatively higher efficiency. Another approach is to improve the dryer's energy supply source. We can get the renewable energy sources. We can combine the power and the drying together. So there are further different types of renewable sources, for example, solar energy, biomass, biogas, heat pump, geothermal drying. So these are very recent approach towards the sustainability in the drying. So some people have reported that we can mix the sun gas driven tray dryer, in which we use the solar, and we can combine these two and make an efficient method of drying. Another is the combination of heat and power drying systems. So there are many ways of drying which are being recently studied or recently developed for improving the conventional method of drying system of food. So there are many more. Some of them are hybrid drying, heat pump drying, superheated steam drying, vacuum drying, foam mat drying, microwave, refractive index, ohmic heating can be used, impingement, and freeze drying. So based on different concepts, based on different principles, we can apply different approach to improvise the already established drying methods. So in heat pump drying, we basically combine the already drying system with a refrigeration cycle system. So in this type of dryer, heat pump drying utilize an application of the low temperature dehumidified air as the convective drying medium. So in generally in traditional dryers, what we observe that only 5 to 10% of whatever heat is supplied is being absorbed by the product which is being dried. Nearly 90 to 95% heat is being wasted. It is not being absorbed by the product. So we want to utilize that heat so that it can be recirculated and it can be again used. So we basically collect the energy by two ways. One is the heat of condensation or the latent heat of vaporization, as well as the sensible heat is recovered, and that can be again used or recycled to make the process very efficient. Also, the evaporator of the refrigeration cycle will function as a dehumidifier, so that the humidity present or the moisture present in the outgoing air can be removed, and we can make it more efficient for again using it in the dryer. So drying efficiency can be achieved in multiple ways using the heat pump drying system. One is we are conserving, or we are trying to save the energy. We are preventing the wastage of energy by using the sensible and the latent heat of vaporization, which otherwise in generally which will get wasted. Another this benefit is that we can dehumidify the air coming out from the this drying chamber in the evaporator, so that the dehumidifier air having higher efficiency or capacity to take away the moisture from the wet sample or the material which is being dried. Because this system is entirely recirculatory, so the thermal efficiency of nearly 100% can be achieved. So another method of drying is hybrid drying system. So as the name indicates, we join two different types of drying methods and to achieve the higher efficiency. For example, conventional drying can be combined with microwave so that its efficiency increased. People have worked on sour cherries. Gas-fired and solar dryer has been combined to achieve the good drying or the efficient drying of onion, ginger, cabbage. Hot air has been this combined or joined with many other, for example, solar drying, rotary drying, or thermal shelf or tray dryers. Biomass heater has been coupled with solar dryer, so that in the same way, we can use even 3 types of drying methods, or we can use more than them, so that a desired drying characteristic or a drying of the material can be achieved. For example, initially the drying is very quick, but drying becomes complicated at the end of the drying. So if we somehow obtain a dehumidified air, that can be used at the end, towards the end of the drying, and we can make the complicated drying at the end slightly simple by using a dehumidified air to remove the moisture in the final the material which is at the final stage of the drying. So this is how sometimes we couple or join different methods of drying to achieve the desired, or we can make it efficient in many ways. For example, efficient from the point of view of the energy utilized, from the point of view of the quality of the product, from the point of view of the quality of the final product, or the desired characteristic of the rehydration characteristic of the final product. So another way of recent method which is being studied or have been established, it is the superheated steam drying. Normally we use the steam or hot water as a heating medium in roller or tray dryers or contact dryers. Now what we use is superheated steam, the steam which is at the temperature higher than its boiling point. and absolute pressure. And it has been proved that it is more efficient than hot air drying or the similar drying conditions. For example, while we use the hot water, although the it's not applicable to the material which are heat sensitive or the food product in which there are heat sensitive components. For example, sometimes vitamins or some bioactive compounds. We cannot suggest this type of drying method for those products because the temperature may go above 100 in this case. However, where there is no issue with the sensitivity of the product towards the higher temperature, it can be used. And it has been, people have worked on different products, for example, meat pulp, for example, paddy, seaweed extract. It has been an efficiency of the removal of the moisture or the energy efficiency has been improved. So another thing is that what we understood that water has to be removed and it has to be evaporated during the drying. But normally, under normal conditions, the removal of water vapor from a free surface is possible at 100 degrees Celsius under normal atmospheric conditions. So is it possible to dry it at lower temperature? Yes, that is possible. If we look at the phase diagram of the water, here we can see that if we look at the line of vaporization, if we reduce the pressure, we can reduce the vaporization temperature. That is the concept behind the vacuum drying system. So if we don't want to dry a material at higher temperatures, we say 100 or 80 degrees Celsius, it is possible to dry the material at a lower temperature so that the sensitivity towards the higher temperature can be reduced and we can get the good product. So that is, in this type of drying, we still evaporate the water present in the material, but we do it at a lower temperature because vaporization is a time and pressure dependent phenomena. If we reduce the pressure, the vapor pressure gets reduced and it is easy to vaporize the water. Easy means it is possible to remove the moisture at the lower temperature. So it is used in many industries, in chemical processing as well as food processing, textile, drying, and so it is usually used for the substance with a heat sensitive as well as the hygroscopic nature. Hygroscopic nature, which has a tendency to absorb the moisture back once the moisture is being removed. So having the higher tendency to absorb the moisture, this type of drying system can be used because we don't let the vapors remain in the chamber. They are being continuously removed. So there is no chance of movement of water back from the moisture, back from the vapors to the product during its drying. So next is freeze drying. Now, is it possible to dry a material at sub-zero temperature? Until now, we discussed about the temperature which is more than zero, but is it possible to dry a material at temperature lower than 0 degrees Celsius? Again, the answer is yes. Again, if we look at the phase diagram of the water, if we go to the line of sublimation, that is below the triple point, if we further reduce the pressure, it is possible to convert the water which is in solid state or the ice directly from ice or the solid state to the gaseous state. So we don't need to go into the liquid state. So that is possible by using the freeze drying, and it is commonly known as lyophilization. So it is basically a two-stage process in which first the material which is being dried has to be frozen because we are going to sublimize the water, and after that the pressure is reduced until its vaporization is possible at sub-zero temperature. So we need to reduce the pressure to a higher extent. So advantage of this method is that there is a less shrinkage in the product. So movement of soluble solids is minimized. There is no movement of the soluble solids as the shrinkage is minimized in the products. By that, what we can achieve is that there is a proper rehydration, or the texture of the final product is far better than the other drying methods if it is to be rehydrated. Because we don't go temperature above 0 degrees Celsius. So therefore, all the nutrients or the volatile flavor compounds or the materials which are or the components which are sensitive to the heat will remain in the product, in the final product, and we get a smooth or a free-flowing powder finally. Also, it can be used for the product which is having the issue with the glass transition, like in case of fruit juices. Why we can easily dry liquid milk or the skimmed milk by spray drying, but it's not possible to dry pure fruit juices using a spray drying method, because the glass transition temperature of glucose, which is mostly present in the fruit juices, is near 40 degrees Celsius, but the wet bulb temperature during the spray drying system goes nearly 70 degrees Celsius. So before it reaches the drying temperature, it changes its phase from amorphous to glass transition, and it becomes thick and rubbery. So that's why it's not possible to dry the fruit-based materials under normal conditions at higher temperature. So it becomes leathery and it becomes sticky. So to prevent that, we can use the freeze drying system. So is it possible now to remove the moisture without changing its phase? Until now, we changed the phase from liquid to vapors and from solid to directly vapors using sublimation or the freeze drying concept. Yes, it is possible to remove the water in its water form, in its liquid form, and the concept is known as osmotic dehydration. So in this method, the water is removed by placing the food material in a hypertonic solution, and because of the higher osmotic pressure and the driving force of water removal arises between the solution and the food, and the water starts moving from the food material towards the hypertonic solution, because the concentration of the solids in the hypertonic solution are relatively higher. Although there is possibility of some movement of solids or the sugars from the solution towards the inside the food material as well. However, this method can be used as a pretreatment, so that it has been reported that nearly 50% of the fresh weight can be reduced by this type of drying, and it is mostly suitable for fruit-based products. And you can see nowadays some strawberries and some berries are being supplied to the market, which are being osmotically dehydrated, or they have been pretreated with the osmotic dehydration. As I discussed, that it can be coupled, or a hybrid method can be used for utilizing this concept of dehydration. So this technique has been recently used for production of intermediate moisture foods, shelf-stable products, pre-drying. It can be used for pre-drying treatment, so that the actual drying or the drying which is coming after osmotic dehydration will become easy for it to remove the rest of the moisture. So it can be used as a pre-treatment. So microwave drying is actually while we use it is where the heat is being used, but the heat generated here is not because of the conduction or convection, but the heat is generated by a unique method or unique volumetric heating mode, which is being generated by the dipole moment of the water present in the material when they are exposed to the electromagnetic radiations of nearly of the range of 915 to 2459 megahertz, which is the range of microwaves which are being used for domestic purposes. So when we expose the wet material to this electromagnetic radiations, their temperature increases. Because of the increase in temperature, they start losing the moisture, and moisture starts vaporizing. So by this method, we can use this technology can be used for drying and make it more efficient and quick drying as compared to the conventional method. So it is generally rarely used alone, but it can be used in a hybrid technology. Again, we can couple it with another type of drying. For example, we can use it for hot air or steam or vacuum conditions, or any conventional method, so that it becomes more efficient and the drying process becomes quick, and the product which we obtain is of better quality relative. So they can greatly reduce the drying time without causing much damage to the quality of the product. So if we keep a material at a higher temperature for longer duration, the time also plays a great role in changing the quality or causing the quality deterioration in the product. So therefore, to prevent that thing, if we can quickly dry the material using microwave drying system, that is good for the overall quality of the product. So there are some more methods, for example, foam mat drying, in which we make a foam of the product. As I discussed, that the area of the material is also important for drying. So if we increase the area of the product, so it is possible to get the desired drying in very less time. So here we see the pulp is liquid, or the pulp is having a lower surface area. But if we add some surfactant or some foaming agent, and we make a foam of it, and then we expose this foam material to the drying condition, even if it is hot air dry, compared to this bulk material, it will take lesser time because it's more area is exposed to the drying medium. So you can see that this some liquid berry juice has been this made a foam out of it, and after drying it, we got the final product, the powder of the material. Other recent, or it is copyright technology, US based, in which what we use, there is the food material is kept on the plastic film or Pyrex glass, and we use the concept of conduction as well as the infrared light. So both basically the food material is kept on the plastic film, which is itself on the hot water or the hot water bath. So there are two ways of heat transfer. One is because of the conduction, because the contact of the water with the film and then film with the product. Another is that because of the water present in the material, it starts absorbing the infrared, because the plastic film on which the product is, it is transparent, and it is transparent to the infrared radiations produced by the this hot water.
Sir, please excuse me, but
yes,
we have some. I mean, the time is getting over. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I am done. I will just one slide more.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So in this method of drying, because the absorption of two modes occur simultaneously, that is infrared light is absorbed by the water present in the thin material or wet material, as well as the conduction. So that makes this process more efficient. While as because of the evaporative cooling simultaneously with the conduction or the removal of the water, the material is exposed to the lower temperature. So the preservation of nutrients or the heat sensitive phytonutrients is possible in using this method of drying. So some other methods are like ohmic heating drying, in which we directly supply the electric current to the food material through special electrodes, and because of the resistance of the food material, the temperature of the material increases, and because of its because of the change in the temperature, the moisture starts removing from the material, and it is generally suitable for liquid materials having higher moisture, and it's not suitable for the material which contains fats and sugars, because that fats and sugars are not conductive to the electrical current. So there is this ohmic heating principle doesn't work there. So the Joule's concept fails there. That's why we can use it for the material which is having the higher this electrical conductivity. Another way is impingement drying, in which drying material is subject to the hot air streams and at very high velocities, and which are circulated back into the this material or the dryer. This enables the drying to be more efficient due to increase in the heat transfer coefficient because of the higher velocity of the product. So we can see that how the conventional drying and impingement drying has increased the energy efficient in case of paddy and in case of fresh potatoes. So this was all about the recent, and there are many more drying technologies, including electro technologies or adsorption based drying technologies. So drying technology is a huge scope of improvisation, or there is many possibilities to improvise the conventional or even the newer method which are recently being studied. Is a huge scope to increase their efficiencies. So with this, I would like to thank you everyone, and especially the MIT University for giving me the chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Renu Khedkar for the question answer round.
Yes, there are questions. Yes, the question for Dr. Janaswamy. Yes, Dr. Janaswamy.
I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, this question is for you. What is the cheapest biodegradable plastic which has been already commercialized, and how is the cost of that compared to polyethylene?
Simple answer, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't know. I had to dig into literature. Sorry, I'm not aware of those numbers.
Yeah, because it is biodegradable plastic. That is,
Yeah, I will find out.
yes. Yes, participants, we'll get back to you on this. Yes, other question I've already asked to Dr. Alam. Yes, yeah, that is the question. Yes, Dr. Sunan, can you see any other question?
No, ma'am. It's just that once a participant is asking for these informative presentations, which all the dignitaries have presented.
Yes, but yes, we would like to tell the participants. Yes, Dr. Janaswamy, but commercialized, biopolymers, bio-based polymer plastics are there. They are there in the market.
Yes, I know, but
yeah,
I don't know the value.
Yeah,
I don't know the.
Yes. The problem with these polymers is the how you can have a low cost technology, right, for making these polymers, isn't it, sir?
I completely agree with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Because all these technologies are being explored. How we can give it to the producers at a low cost. Because when you compare it with plastic, cost is a very big factor.
Yes, certainly plastics, they're inexpensive. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
This new technologies could be relatively expensive, but I sincerely believe down the lane, the production cost could be low, but at this moment they could be relatively high.
Yeah,
But
at this
that's my
point,
gut feeling.
Yeah. Yes.
That's my gut feeling, but
Yeah.
because certainly there will be technological advancement, but this is what needs to be done. But otherwise, the price that we are paying for the plastic utility is very high, because now we have already, I think I read somewhere around 800 marine species are extinct. They are no more available, and we are causing a lot of damage to the soil as well. So if you add them all, I believe the price that we had to pay for this current technology could be a little high, but I sincerely believe down the lane, very expensive.
Down the few years, we can see a bigger use of these biodegradable, plastics. Yes. And slowly, I think, we can see, lesser price for this as compared to as the volume goes up, and the price will also go down.
Newer and newer technologies are coming up, so that would definitely, those advancements will definitely reduce the overall price.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So thank you, sir. Yes, Dr. Sunan.
Okay, ma'am. So I think we move towards the last session, that is the assessment and
But before that, I think we can have the vote of thanks, so
Yes.
that then we can move for the assessment.
Participants, please don't leave the session, because after vote of thanks, we'll be having an assessment.
Yeah, but till then, the link can be put on the
Yes,
chat
sir.
box
Uh,
so that the participants can start with the assessment.
yes, sir. Dr. Ankit, can you please post the link in the chat box so that the participant can start with the assessment?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr.
Please give me
Ankit and
the.
Dr. Alok is also there. Somebody can put up.
And we'll be
Okay.
having the assessment which we was not able to had it on the previous date. So please, I would like to ask Dr. Alok also after the first assessment, please post the link for the second assessment as well for the yesterday's session.
Yes. Okay, so can we go for the vote of thanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Then, yeah. Okay, so thank you. I would like to thank especially today's speakers, Dr. Janaswamy, Dr. Alam. Of course, he is not here, but he did make it for us, and Dr. Makru. Special thanks to Dr. Janaswamy for agreeing to be part of this event at a very, very short time. Sir, really heartfelt thanks to you. And yes, it was a wonderful presentation and you have spared time for us. You stayed here and, answered the questions also. So sincere thanks to you, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity. Nice meeting
Yes,
you all.
Yes, thank you. And thanks, Dr. Makru, to you as well for this wonderful. Please excuse me for taking that opportunity to. Of course, because the time is short, and so although your presentation was excellent, but we had to cut it short somehow. Anyway, thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. I would also like to thank the participants and my colleagues who are here. And of course, we cannot go ahead with any of these, events without the blessings of our founder president, sir, and chancellor, sir, and of course, the guidance of our vice chancellor, madam. Sincere thanks to our founder, sir, and chancellor, sir, and vice chancellor, madam, because with under their guidance and their vision, we are trying to do as much as we can. Although very little, but yes, we are trying to do that. Thank you, sir, and thank you to the IT team as well